your health. If you have it, you have 1,000 dreams in the world, 1,000 goals in the world. If you don't have it, you only have one. And that's why I'm excited to have Air Force veteran and CEO of Hooray Health here, Shane Foss. Because whether it's your personal life or business, and we're going to be talking mainly about business, but if you don't have your health or good health care, you're really not in the best position for a bright future. I'm going to bring them up right after we thank our sponsor. Every business needs a book, including yours. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Once again, that's freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Shane Foss. Shane, how are you feeling today?
I'm doing great, Mario. How are you doing?
I'm excited to hear what you have to say. I'm always doing good, always feeling great, but I love learning, and it's one of the reasons I love doing the show and having great people on, such as yourself, because I have my area of expertise with publishing and marketing, and you have yours, and I'm excited to learn myself and ask questions for expert authority world. So my first one would be, why is healthcare important, especially in a business setting?
Well, when you look at your health, I think you said it great, in the intro, which is if you've got great health, you have all these aspirations, but if you're sick, you're thinking one thing: how do I get better? Well, as an employer, if your employees are unable to get the health care that they need, go see a doctor, guess what? They're not at work, or they're underperforming, they can't do their job, or if they're worried about the financial stresses, that all has a huge impact on the business, billions and billions of dollars a year when you put it across the U.S. economy. So health insurance coverage for your employees is incredibly important for the success of your business.
When should you start looking at it? Whether if you have one employee, 50, 100, what do you recommend to people?
Well, I think you need to start looking at it right away, because when you're a startup, right? So if you look at the different phases of your business, when you're a startup, it's really important to attract talent to come in. And if you're able to, with some of the new tools today, like the ICHRA, where you're able to put money aside tax-free for the employee to go buy an individual plan, you're helping them buy something. Or whether you get to your next phase of your business where you have 50 plus employees, where you're legally obligated under ACA to offer a qualified plan. It's never too early. It really, because your goal is always to take care of your employees, because they're the ones that take care of you, right? So I think, starting with employee number one, which is you, you should take care of yourself. And so I think looking at health insurance options is always going to be really important.
I heard something that piqued my interest. What's this 50 plus year required ACA?
Oh yeah. So that's with the ACA Obamacare, they put it in place that legally, once you get above 50 full-time equivalent employees, that you legally need to you're legally obligated to offer an ACA qualified health plan to your employees. So that is otherwise there's Part A and Part B penalties. And so you qualify for those penalties, and the Part A penalty, which is nicknamed the hammer penalty, they actually if you have 50 employees, you multiply that times. Right now, I think it's right around $2,700 this year. It was $2,570 last year. That's a lot of money. And so when you look at how, from starting a business and you get to that next step, which is 50 full-time employees, that's usually a great time. But now you're adding in a little risk from a cost standpoint if you don't offer health benefits. And
Yeah,
some people don't know that.
If my math is even remotely close, that's about $125,000.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
As the penalty,
And
is that
right.
why you call it the hammer? Because it's
Yeah. And then the Part B penalty is if you offer what they call a minimum essential coverage plan, which is a very low cost plan to kind of get you your preventative services. The next one is then if your employee goes to the exchange and buys a plan and gets a subsidy, then it's a much lesser penalty. It's $3,800 per employee that goes to the exchange to get a subsidized plan. So it's not as bad, but it's still a penalty. So a lot of people will do the math when they have 500 employees that are making $10, $12 an hour, and they're like, well, if I have to pay $300 a month for somebody, or $3,600 a year, or I can pay $2,800 or $2,700 for the Part A penalty, I'll take the penalty and I'll save some money. What we do is we go in and show them, hey, look, we can do it much less expensive than that, and give them a rich benefit that really helps them and really aligns with your business goals.
Well, I definitely want to dive deeper with that, because I would think every business owner, obviously, that's successful is looking at the numbers, but you have that heart component of, and not like healthcare heart. I mean, if you're sitting there going, it's 36 versus 26, it's not that big of a difference, but times hundreds and hundreds of people it is. However,
right.
They still don't have coverage if you don't get them anything. So it's like, are they literally just a number to you, or transactional, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I would hope everyone would want to, if you have actual employees. So how does this come into play when a lot of companies now are doing remote stuff with contractors versus employees? And do you see more people moving to this model versus having, I remember I had a goal when I started out years ago, over decades ago, and it was like, I want to have 100 employees, because the only image of business I had was, you need an office, you need a fleet of cars so people can drive around, and you need employees. And basically all of those are false nowadays, depending on the business and the business model. There's new ways to do it. So that paradigm shift of, do I need all these employees? Do I need a building? Do I need a car or a fleet of cars? I was actually looking forward to those because they were going to be cool. But you know what I mean? It's like all this
fleet of Lamborghinis.
Yeah, Escalades driving around.
Oh, there
take
we go.
people to dinners. I had just these images of. Actually, the Lambos would be cool, but I was trying to keep it somewhat cost effective. My image of business was like 1950 to the 1990s, early 2000s, where that's like what people did. That's how you have a successful business. No, that's how you have a lot of expenses, and it may or may not result in business.
Right. Exactly. Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of business owners out there that, they don't care very much for their employees, but for the most part, most employers are really good. And, it's funny because when you talk about business growth, there's a lot of businesses out there and business owners that really don't focus on the development of their people. They don't, they make all the decisions. They're the business owner. They're the top salesperson. There's not a lot of empowerment going on. We've all seen it. We have friends that are like that. And so you struggle a little bit, right, as a business. And so, what we see is that the businesses that really do care for their employees are, even though they can't afford major medical, right, which is, look, that's a reality today, and it's going to continue to get worse. And so a lot of people accept that. And if they know that when you're offering a product that it's thoughtful, it covers their basic needs. Yes, it's a little bit less than major medical. It doesn't cover as much, but they're putting their time, energy, and money into offering this product. It goes a long way with employees. And, the reality isn't, Gallup does so much good work on employee engagement. And, that is a huge, huge issue with employers, is employee engagement. And so if you don't have engaged employees, they're paying for it one way or the other, right? They may think, oh, I'm not paying the full amount, but they are. And so, it's our job as benefits consultants to go in there and work with the employer and help them realize, hey, look, there's some goodwill in here. There's some other things that happen. A lot of people don't understand the financial stresses of a low-paying job. If you're making $20 an hour, 1 in 5 Americans are sent to collections for an unpaid bill, medical bill every year, right? You got 62% of all personal bankruptcies are due to medical-related bad debt. You have people today that will not go see a doctor because they have no idea what it's going to cost, and they're getting sent to collections for bills that it just doesn't make any sense. And so our system is broken, and so you're basically leaving your employees out there to to fend for themselves, and a lot of times they need some help, and it can be a huge distraction and an additional cost to you one way or the other.
How do you help people to decide what's the best in their case? Have you ever once said, in your scenario, it's better not to have the healthcare coverage because it's just so astronomical and you are better off taking the hit? Or do you always try to find, or do you have the ability to create a plan that, because if you said 2,700 a person?
It's about 2,700.
Okay, so that would be about 200.
That's 270,000 if you've got 100 employees. It's 270,000 a year.
Okay. So are you always able to find a plan that's 200 to 250 a month that makes sense or less?
Yes. That's what Hooray Health does. That's what our company, we were founded on. We're not major medical. We don't even sell major medical. We have a bunch of partners that we would put in as a major medical component if we were if it was the right fit for the employer. We're usually brought in by that consultant to say they can't afford major medical, but they want to offer something.
Good.
And so Hooray Health, what we did was we created a I call it minor medical plan, fully insured product that takes care of the basic, everyday, and urgent healthcare needs they need. So we have a wellness component to it, we have a sickness component to it, and we have an accident component. And what we did was we took the CDC data that's readily available, and we built a plan that covers what the majority of people go through in a given year, and which doesn't include cancer, right? So our clientele are typically under the age of 45, definitely under 65, but the rate of cancer, there's 0.1%. Okay. So we don't cover cancer, but guess what? We cover accidents. We cover the sickness. We also, we added technology around to make, because we want to make the product easy to use. And one of the biggest issues in medicine today, or the delivery of healthcare, is this coordination, right? So if I go to see a physician, where do I go to get a prescription? Where do I go get an x-ray or a lab? So we try to take that coordination and we put in our mobile app. And we also created a provider network that is the Hooray Health Provider Network. It's a $25 copay, no balance bill, right? When was the last time you heard that? $25 copay, anything done under the roof of that urgent care or retail clinic. So CVS Minute clinics, Walmart clinics. We have 14 of the top urgent care businesses in the United States contracted. But we provide a opportunity for Americans to go see a doctor in an urgent care for $25 and not worry about a balance bill. And the reason I created that network was I had a back issue and I went in to an urgent care, and I had United Healthcare at the time, great plan. I had like a $6,000 deductible. The copay was $75. I went in and I said, well, what's your global fee? Because I haven't even seen a doctor this year. So I had the full deductible left. And they said it was a $150 global fee. Great. Well, I went in, they took an x-ray of my neck. They found what they thought was a bone spur, and they assumed it was irritating the nerve root coming out of the neck. And so my shoulder, my back were seized up. It was like I was flexing. Well, they gave me 2 injections, a muscle relaxer, anti-inflammatory. 3 weeks later, I get an $800 balance bill. mind you, they were in network. So when I called them up, I said, hey, you're in network. Why am I, it should have been $150, which I paid. What's going on? Well, we got to carve out. Well, that's, one of the big ugly secrets that's going on today is the carriers have really, since we've gotten to this high deductible, they don't worry about the little stuff anymore. So the providers are now like, well, we're going to carve this out. We're going to carve this out. So since it was a carve out, I knew that I could negotiate the bill down. So I negotiated to like $70. Well, where does that make sense, right? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. That's like me walking into Walmart, buying a gallon of milk for $5, going home, and then Walmart sending me a bill for $800, for what? And then me calling Walmart and saying, all right, I'm not going to pay $800, so I'll pay you $70. Where does that make sense, right? It doesn't. And so, so we created this network that it's $25 copay, no balance bill. And so we protect the people that need to get protected.
That's fantastic, because the other thing I was thinking of is I don't want to pigeonhole anyone, and I don't have the stats, but I would say I'll just say most people, when they get a bill, they don't, unless you're in business, they really don't know how to negotiate. They don't know to ask.
No.
You had that benefit, and good for you for going to the 800 to 70. That's phenomenal. However, you paid 150 plus 70 when you thought it was still going to have to be 150. So it's still, it's like a smaller kick in the throat, but it's still like you said, why did this happen? So my question is, how would you differentiate minor medical to major medical?
So
someone who doesn't know the difference.
Sure, absolutely. So we're what you call a first dollar coverage, which is an indemnity benefit. So we really have two benefits with us. We have an indemnity, so we pay a fixed amount. And so my network contracts are for fixed payments, which match up with our benefits, okay? But if, let's say they went out of network, so they went to a physician that was not in a network, we would pay $175 for that visit, which is a significant dollar amount. Then the other side of it is you have major medical. So major medical, what they would do is we're first dollar coverage, they're last dollar coverage. So you have to meet your deductible before they pay anything. Does that make sense? To where, so in other words,
so with your $6,000 deductible, if you had $4,098 of stuff, they're not even going to pay it.
Correct. Which is why they've really, I'm not saying it's purposeful. I'm just saying they've really dropped the ball on those lower cost items. So they've got a lot more carve outs, and so it's it's the other thing that we do is we have what's called an accident medical expense policy that works with our indemnity, and that is $5,000, $0 deductible. So if I have an accident, so a great example, I had 11 stitches in my hand about last May, and my son drives me to the ER, takes me in, I give him my ID card. They identify me as having insurance, right? So they bill our third-party administrator after they stitch up my hand, and the bill came in. It was an EOB, explanation of benefits, came in to me 3 weeks later, and it was for $0, and the total bill cost was $980, and our plan paid 100% of it. And that's the way healthcare.
Sorry you needed stitches in your hand, but that's a cool outcome for the medical side.
Yeah. I mean, it's a, we've been in business now going on 5 years, just over 4, going on 5. And every year our goal is we want to get better, micro improvements on our process. I give my wife a ton of credit because, she lets me know it. Because we've been on the plan the longest, right, as our family. So she lets me know if something doesn't work. And so but it's great because we use it, and if something doesn't work, we come back and say, how do we fix it, right? And so we've gotten to a point now where, we really, knock on wood, we don't get complaints on the things that you would think you would get complaints on, which is what, any of the other carriers would get complaints on. Our complaints are, hey, my benefits didn't turn on yet. And it's like, well, man, you got to wait till the 1st. It doesn't, and so things like that, it's a different conversation. And so it's really exciting because what our whole goal every year is, you know, cost of healthcare goes up. We haven't raised, as a matter of fact, we've lowered our price over the last 4 years. We haven't raised our price once. So we started 4 years ago at a dollar amount. We're actually lower than that now, and we have more benefit. And so the other part of it is every year we try to add, like we're evaluating our telemedicine provider, our other ancillary providers. And so what we do is we work with them for them to improve. And hey, what else can we offer at a low cost option, right? To make sure that we're giving our people the best access to care. Like this last year, we expanded to a cash price MRI CT provider network where, the average cash price you're paying for an MRI is like $350 to $400. Well, I just saw a stat today. The average MRI cost across the United States is $2,000. So, I mean, that's a game changer. If I'm making, $30, $40, $50,000 a year, shoot, what if I'm making $90,000 a year? What does it matter? Why am I paying $2,000 for something I should be paying $350 for? Makes no sense.
So under your plan, you can get it for $350?
Yeah.
Let me ask you about the pricing. I know it's specific for everyone, but if you're beating the $2,700 hammer fee, what did you say it was? Penalty? Yeah, the penalty?
Yeah, the hammer penalty.
It sounds like $2.25 a month is the threshold of, to meet that. Are you finding most of the plans are between 100 and 200? Do you have any for 50 to 100?
Yeah. So great question. So with our minimum essential coverage plan that's paired with Hooray Health, starts about $120 for an employee only. We have plans that go down to $60 for an employee. So when we offer a lot of part-time benefits as well for the part-time population, we have a lot of those that population, and so you don't need to offer an ACA qualified plan. So we'll take the minimum essential coverage plan off, and we'll just add that for $60. And so they have a very low cost option. When you break it down, when you look at most of the part-timers, they're working 20 hours a week, right? So it's less than, it's usually around 60 cents an hour is how we look at it. So, which is very inexpensive. And we actually have employers that have large part-time population in the restaurant space and hospitality that actually contribute towards that as well for their part-time, especially now because look, part-time, they're gold, right? It's kind of like used vehicles, right? You can't find them anywhere, and they're priced higher. And so, part-time population is really hard to hire for right now. So employers are getting really creative.
Wow, that's fantastic. So are those the two main plans, or do you have any for 150, 200 a month that offer more, or is it just not needed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We go all the way up to about $250 a month.
Okay. So it just really depends what you're looking for, the age of the person,
correct.
The health of the person, how much
comprehensive
coverage.
Exactly. And we, look, we don't want to be major medical. We're not major medical. We make sure everybody understands that. And if you can afford major medical, we want you to do that. But, the challenge is when I talk to people, it's really interesting, and they have a solution, or they're the brokers. Hey, this is what we're doing. My question is always, are you addressing the pricing issue? And the answer is never no. Never yes, never yes. It's always no. And so, when you look even by Biden right now, if you're 150% of the federal poverty line, okay, depending on what state you are, that can be anywhere from, to 35,000 to 55,000, just depending on which state, which area you're in. So could be 200,000 if you're in San Francisco, right? That's a joke, by the way, San Francisco. But anyway, Biden will pay 100% of your plan through tax credits. Okay. Well, here's the problem. When you look at the plan that they offer, it's a $35 to $5,000 deductible if you're looking at the least expensive plan on the exchange. Well, you're functionally uninsured because the majority of Americans don't even have $400 in their bank account anyway, majority. But now when you're looking at 150% of the federal poverty line, so what you're doing is you're giving them catastrophic coverage. They're going to get sick, which is great. They get sick and they go to the hospital. They're still not covered because they haven't met that deductible. Does that make sense? Because so now I'm functionally uninsured. I still can't go see the doctor to, if I'm sick with the flu, that then, okay, I can't see the doctor. So I don't go into the doctor. The flu turns into influenza, pneumonia. And then, then I've got all these other issues. Then I'm hospitalized. And so that's why, taking care of the first dollar coverage is so important. And so the other place where we work really well is a supplement sitting under a high deductible health plan, which I think that as we move forward, whether Obama or Biden comes in and extends this 150% of the federal poverty line, paying that over the next 5-10 years, great. You're still going to have a gap. People can't afford, they just can't afford to use a plan. So they're going to need a first dollar coverage like us. And we sit in really well under that. And we have opportunities to where we can go down into the, $50, $45, $50 range to cover those basic.
So you're making it more affordable, because if someone just has a cough and wants to go to urgent care, having a $5,000, $6,000 or even $3,000 deductible is kind of nuts. I mean, then you could say, well, now the doctors are going to charge 10 times as much, and now we're back to the MRI situation where it's like, why am I paying $2,000 even if you make $250,000 for something you could be paying $300 or $400 for?
Yeah, it's really, there's a lot of perverted incentives, if you would, in healthcare, and even people like myself that are very knowledgeable in healthcare get caught up in it sometimes. My wife and I went in for our annual physical, and our physician had, we got our lab done in her office. Neither of us, my wife's a physician, by the way, neither of us thought to ask who the lab provider was. Well, guess what? 2 weeks later, we get bills for $400 for our basic blood work for each of us. So $800. So I called the lady up. I said, well, hey, I guess we're out of network. Can I just, can I pay cash on this? Absolutely not. You owe us this. And so I hang up the phone. I call her back 5 minutes later and said, hey, I need to get these labs. What's your cash price for this? $80. So I said, thank you for the $80, but I was just on the phone with you guys and you're telling me, well, we can't do that. We can't give you that. So I called the primary care doc and I said, look, I don't know if you realize this is what they're doing, but this is what they're doing. And she said, give me 5 minutes. She calls me back. Don't worry about the bill anymore. But even the doctors don't understand sometimes what their, lab vendors, radiology vendors, they don't understand what's going on. And the coordination of care is so challenging in the United States. I mean, it's so challenging. And so, you have to be hyper vigilant as a consumer in healthcare. And you need to ask why. You need to say, I need a second opinion. You need to ask, who is my lab vendor? Do you know how much they're going to, are they in network? And so, it's some of the legislation they're trying to put through is trying to help some of that, but it's really, you're kind of putting lipstick on a pig, really. You're not addressing the big needs.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're making a difference. I got 2 quick questions for you. One of them is, who is your biggest success story that they were having issues with the healthcare? They came to you and now they're, their employees are happier. They're saving a ton more money. They're making more. Who comes to mind?
Great. Really one of our largest clients. They're a national client for us. We got brought in by the broker 3 years ago now, and they have a group with 1099 contract employers or employee, excuse me. And they are a oil field services support is what they do. And they really were struggling keeping them engaged because they would be on for 4 months and then they'd be off a month. And then it was, and keeping them engaged, it was really challenging for them. So they went initially with a minimum essential coverage plan here in town. And they were just so, it was really unfortunate how they were treated. So they called us and said, hey, can you help us out? And so we went in and we were the only ones that we billed the company a certain amount, and then we billed if they wanted to add their employees or anybody else, or their spouse or their children or their families, then we billed them separately on a credit card. Well, nobody said it. Everybody was like, oh, that can't be done. Well, we did it. And now we're going on 3 years, and we've continued to grow that business. They're exploding now. And in 3 years we had one complaint. And so they're just ecstatic. They use us as a recruiting tool because it's they get the benefits, which they pay 100% for the employer, the contractor, and then they they allow the contractor to add their family. And one of the big ugly secrets in medicine today is that, or I shouldn't say medicine, but health insurance is the dependent coverage has gone down by 60%. Nobody is able to afford dependent coverage anymore. And with us, of that population, we have over 50% of our plans are with dependent coverage. So, we make it affordable. And so, which makes them very happy, which makes it very sticky for the employer. And so they're recruiting and growing. I mean, last year, I think we grew with them by 40 or 50%. So it was, so that's a great success story for us. We've really helped them. I mean, they've been a great client for us. And, it tells a good story. I mean, when people care about other people, they know it.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing the right things because,
right.
To that point, when you want to take care of the people on a personal level, but from a professional level, yeah, if it's costing 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 a month for insurance for these people times 100 plus employees or even 50, and I'm sure you have clients that have 2, 3, 4, 500, maybe 1,000 plus.
Yeah.
That's where you're getting into the numbers where, I can understand where people would go, well, it's only 800,000 for the penalty, but it's 4.4 million for the coverage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I get it from a financial standpoint. So I have one more question for you before we go to the imperfect action round, and it's with the wheel of whatever. What color do you want? That's not the question, but I guess that's 2 questions.
Blue.
Okay, well, I'll point to here. Where is it? Right there, right on the tower. So my question for you would be, if you could change any one thing in the industry, it sounds like you have a litany of them, but if there's one thing you could change right now with the industry that goes into effect today, what would it be?
True pricing transparency. I think that would cure everything, because if you had to disclose how much you were charging up front, then I think people, whether what's going on or not, everybody would take a step back and say, wait. So I think pricing transparency would be my number one.
That's a great answer, and I agree. I mean, for outside of this, for any business, it's like that's why people are. I can't imagine you go in for an MRI, you feel like crap to begin with, and now it's like I don't know if I'm getting $1,000 bill, $500 bill, or $2,500 bill.
Yeah, well, I think the best story of all that over the last 10 years that's happened is that, and it was pretty widely published, there is a gentleman that went in for a spine surgery up in New York. And his spine surgeon, his anesthesiologist, his hospital, everything was in network. So that bill was like $60,000, $70,000, which is normal for that type. It was a big procedure. Great. Fully acceptable. He got a balance bill charge for an out-of-network assistant fee. So another surgeon came in and assisted that was out of network and charged $100 $100,000 for him. And guess who is responsible for it?
He was.
He was. And that kind of stuff is just insane. That's like somebody, you're shopping for milk in Walmart, you put a gallon of milk in, and somebody puts a new TV in and you're obligated to pay for it. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's crazy. So anyway.
I mean, if it's a Samsung 3D 8K, and I can keep it still,
right.
But I get the point. That's a whole other. I'm just gonna bite my tongue. I get it.
It's criminal. It's criminal.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna thank our sponsor and come back for the imperfect action round.
All right.
You're already the expert, but have you transformed your expertise into a tangible asset that will generate and qualify leads while increasing profit for you 24/7? And if so, how well are you promoting it? With the Expert Authority Effect publishing method, it's easier and faster than ever. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Visit freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com to get started now. Once again, that's freebusinessbookpublishingcourse.com. And we are back with the imperfect action round. Shane, are you ready to take imperfect action?
I'm ready.
The first question I have for you is, what is the fastest path to the profits?
Fastest path to profits is increased sales and charging enough.
Excellent. Number 2, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way for them to fix it?
Slow decision making and putting a priority on making a decision quick.
Number 3, what is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
Make them happy. Ask them what's working and what's not, and have honest conversations with them annually.
Very good. What books would you recommend to Expert Authority World?
Crossing the Chasm. I would also recommend, my number one all-time favorite is Blue Ocean Strategy. So if you're starting a business or you're in a current existing business, Blue Ocean Strategy is probably the best book I've ever read.
Great recommendations. All right, where would you like people to learn more?
HoorayHealth.com. You can link in with me. You can connect with me there. But HoorayHealth.com is a great place to start, learn more about what we do, and connect with us.
Excellent. Well, thank you for everything you've shared. I learned a lot. I know Expert Authority World did too, and thank you for sharing your wealth of wisdom.
Oh, thanks, Mario. I really appreciate the opportunity. Have me on anytime.
All right, Expert Authority World, we have a great episode here today. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, and God bless.